Hello, everyone. My name is Jerry Wise, and I'm the director and founder of Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. And this video is entitled True Feelings versus Systems Feelings. This sometimes is a difficult concept to explain, but I'd like to use this video to kind of introduce it, and maybe you can be helped by a little bit of me sharing about the feeling system and the emotional system as understood from a family systems perspective. I've been a self-expert. I don't necessarily mean a self-expert on me. I'm still learning to be a self, but an expert in helping those gain a sense of self through the work of self-differentiation, as was developed by the grandfather of family therapy, Murray Bowen. And I've been working with couples, individuals, and families for about 40 years now, and I've been trying to be a help to folks in making progress. For myself, I have been through a lot of different therapy, read hundreds of books, self-help books, and to discover my own self. And when I discovered family systems, it began to help me make sense and have a map of how I could begin to be myself, versus the books that would just say, well, be yourself. Well, just be authentic. Well, just do this. Well, just feel your feelings. Well, just identify your feelings. While none of that advice is poor advice, if we don't have a map with which to use it in, or a paradigm in which it makes sense, then we find that even good things don't work out very well. And so I'd like to help folks with a better map on how they can move forward and learn more about themselves. I know there are many adult children of dysfunctional families who have frozen feelings or numb feelings. They're not aware of their feelings. They cannot name their feelings. And that's a process that's very important for us to learn. This video isn't about that. Probably another video would be better for that. This is for someone who is overwhelmed with feelings. They can identify, maybe express their feelings, but they don't have a map with which how to handle them, or what to do with them, or how to see them as symptoms. Many times, and I've read some books recently on feelings for adult children of alcoholics, adult children of narcissists, adult children of abuse. Read some books as to what they would advise as to do in terms of feelings. And basically they just come from, how do you identify, or let's identify them, and then how do you share them, but they don't say much about what to do about them, and how to put them in a systems perspective or relational perspective. And I think that's very important, because our feelings do function within a relationship system. They always are doing that. And so this addresses those who have a struggle and want to learn more about their feelings and how to put them in perspective, and what they might be able to do to heal, resolve, and maybe come to their true feelings versus systems feelings. In the family systems world, there are three things. There's over here the thinking process, then the feeling process, and then the emotional process, which is over here. So there are three different processes that are going on. And the feeling process equals what's happening in these two, the thought process and the emotional field, or the emotional system. That emotional system is a part of our limbic or lizard brain system over here. Feeling system is a part of our intellectual and limbic system. And that's where the two come together. And if we can begin to think in that way, we can begin to sort out our feelings better, rather than just identify them, express them, and sometimes it makes it worse, sometimes it makes it better, but we don't know why it makes it worse and we don't know why it makes it better. We just know we have them. And I definitely think adult children do need to work towards identifying their feelings. Absolutely. But many of them don't identify their thinking process. And many of them are not aware of their emotional field, which begins in our intergenerational process of the emotional system that's been transmitted through generations to us. Feelings are what we actually feel and is the nexus or the combination of our intellectual process, of our thinking process, and the emotional process or lizard brain. Emotions are often out of our awareness and are part of our emotional field over here, which is connected with our family of origin and our imprinting process from the past and what we're functioning out of today. Because as I've said many times in my videos, we always carry our family of origin around with us. It's always inside of us. If we deny that, we're not going to have the right map to know how to heal, recover, grow, find ourselves. And then lastly, the thinking process is what we think, and that cognitive process that we have up here. Now, certainly I realize anatomically and biologically, feelings don't happen down here, feelings happen up here. The emotional process is all up here too, because our brain is the one that processes all of that. And I understand that. But then is the cognitive or thought process, that executive part of our brain. And Murray Bowen was a psychiatrist and a scientist around the whole area of how emotions and feelings function in human beings. And he used a natural biological way of looking at that process to help us work with our feelings and how it works within the system or relationship systems that we're in. We hope to achieve this process of learning about these things through self-differentiation work, which is to arrive at our true feelings, which are not governed by our emotional process. And that's what we hope to gain. We want to find out what our true feelings are. For example, if someone resolves their feelings of low self-worth, unlovability, inability to show love or be intimate, if they're able to resolve that, then they start to feel real feelings of love for someone else and can share that with someone else. Because it's not all clouded and pushed down by all of this, which is unworthiness, low self-esteem, self-hate, all kinds of things that have come from over here. So what, again, are true feelings? True feelings is what we hope to achieve is to experience our feelings as situation appropriate. Because if your feelings are non-situation appropriate, meaning somebody says hi and you go, well, what does that mean? We're having feelings that are not situation appropriate. Somebody says hi to you, you say hi back, whether it's your husband or your child, but we have other things going on, and those are not generally true feelings, those are systems feelings. True feelings are responsive, not reactive. True feelings we feel given a situation or relationship that's appropriate and not how we should feel or are pushed to feel due to unresolved emotional process over here. Feelings which have shades and names, such as feeling scared versus petrified, such as feeling positive versus joy, happy versus elated. They're shades of feelings that we want to learn. And again, learning the language of feelings is very, very important for adult children. And that's why I give clients feelings lists and all kinds of things so they can put that experience they have into words. And if we can put that into words, it can really make a big difference. When you say, how are you feeling? I don't know. Or how are you feeling? Are you feeling angry? Or are there shades of anger that you're feeling? because we want to learn and put a language and vocabulary to our feeling process. Feelings are ones true feelings are ones which are not based on fight or flight. They're not based on intensity so that we cannot think or act in a mature, healthy way. True feelings come out of a plus experience rather than a minus plus or minus plus experience the other way. True feelings are ones which result from a self which is not controlled or governed by the family of origin functioning or systems functioning that's inside of us that we've had since childhood. So what are systems feelings? What would be a way to kind of describe that? Systems feelings are those feelings which we feel due to unresolved systems turmoil or unhealth, or forced by old messages, old imprinting, old family functioning, roles, all those kinds of things. That pushes systems feelings within us. So when a couple sits down, or I'm talking to a couple, and someone, the husband says, I really do love my wife, and immediately the wife feels shame, anger, complaining, or whatever. It's like we're not even able to respond to something that might be positive because there's so much noise coming from our emotional system that we can't do that. Learning about that can help us give and receive healthy feelings. What I call systems feelings are those we don't see the origin or the true cause due to our observational blindness, because we don't see this emotional process over here going on. We don't identify that very well. Systems feelings are reactive, not responsive. Systems feelings are based on a non-well-defined self. Systems feelings come from our family of origin imprinting and family of origin functioning, past and currently. Our family of origin, as I've said, is always within us. And one of the works we do in self-differentiation is getting that family process out of us, or changing that process. So it's not forcing our emotional system to feel things that are very intense or situation inappropriate or cause us so much pain. Systems feelings come from our emotional field without the focus of our thinking process, which is over here. Oftentimes when we are reactive, we're not thinking at all. It's just this causing feelings, and the thought process is clear out of the picture. So we think too little, feel too much, and are pushed by this system far too much. Systems feelings occur to regulate our functioning within relationship systems. They motivate the system. They are a result of the push and the pull of the system, much like we learned growing up. And those feelings will push us to relate in an emotional or a feelings way within a relationship to maintain that status quo from long, long ago. Let's take a couple, for example, in which there are ghosts of family past in each partner. The husband, let's say, fears intimacy, feels needy and inadequate, and feels lonely, distant, cut off from his wife, feelings negative towards her due to his perceived constant criticism by her and difficulty with sexual intimacy with his wife. He chooses to avoid family life, throws himself into work, and then becomes involved with a co-worker and has an affair. Let's talk about the wife. The wife feels abandoned and rejected by her husband. She also does not know how to be intimate or close with someone. She may only know how to enmesh or wants that total fusion, and it's not happening, and she's angry about it. That's from what she learned growing up, just as he learned his things growing up. She tries to compensate by becoming over-involved with the children, and tries to change her husband by criticism and complaining about his choices. and distant in the relationship. She becomes overly involved in church to the exclusion of her husband, feels morally superior to him due to her newfound spirituality. Now, all of that I just described for the husband and wife is the glue that keeps both the family of origin functioning in place for each of them. All of that function makes the family of origin systems going on within each of them remain in place. The husband grew up in an alcoholic home, an alcoholic family. A father was alcoholic, and he had multiple affairs. He was very successful, but he, decides he's going to have affairs and drinks far, far too much. He's abandoned by his father and unsupported by a codependent mother. He had little self-esteem or self-differentiation growing up. He wants intimacy and closeness, but has no idea how to get it or achieve it. He feels numb, angry, lonely, stuck, abandoned, etc., because that's what he's always felt, though now it's superimposed on the marriage. The wife grew up in a hyper-religious family in which her father was controlling and stood in moral superiority to everyone in the family. He was sexually inappropriate with all the daughters, and her mother did nothing to protect the children for fear of disrupting the family's entire life. Her mother overconfided in her daughter, the wife, about her parents' marital life and made the daughter her confidant. Now we have a real mess in this marriage. There's lots going on in this emotional field that's over here that's out of the couple's awareness. The husband experiences many systems feelings. Feeling numb is a systems feeling. Loneliness, anger, rejection, sadness over having very little intimacy. Now again, it's very easy to say, well, of course I'm lonely. My wife, all she does is complain about me, and we never have sex, and that's why I'm feeling lonely and frustrated about that. But he doesn't realize it comes from over here, not necessarily from his wife. His wife is acting out her part. He's acting out his part of his family of origin stuff. His system feelings are weariness over having little self-esteem, feelings of connectedness with another. He doesn't have much connectedness to other people. He never has. He's never known how to do that. And he's waiting for his wife to make that happen. He has unforgiveness towards his wife, unforgiveness towards himself. He blames himself and also blames his wife. So we have all these feelings going on that come from over here. It just happens to have gotten superimposed on this marriage. The wife has systems feelings as well. She feels unloved, worthlessness, unwanted, undesired, frustrated, hopeless, angry that there's little intimacy in the relationship, feels like just a sexual, used sexually, and feels used, feels abused, feel unvalued. Well, all that comes from way back here. It gets superimposed on the relationship. So the husband has an affair with work, and he also has an affair with a coworker. His wife has an affair with God and with the children. So now we got a bunch of affairs going on. Now, I don't believe going to church is the equivalent of having an affair outside of marriage, but in terms of how it functions in the relationship, it's very similar. But I understand the differences, so I hope you don't write me and say, well, if someone goes to church, that's not as bad as having an affair. Well, of course not. However, how it functions in the relationship can be very similar. Function does not morally judge anything. Function is function. It's not morally judging those behaviors. Neither are dealing with these feelings which are rooted in their emotional field from growing up in their family of origin. While many urge these two to identify and express their feelings to each other, which actually can make things worse, and they'll read books on, well, I need to read a book on how to make my marriage better. Well, you need to be open and share with your husband how you're feeling. But if you share with your husband all your system's feelings, he shares with you all of his system's feelings, let me tell you what's going to happen. A mess, a bigger mess. Because there's no clarity, there's no good map. It's just we value feelings, so be sure to share those. No, that can cause a major, major problem. And so many people are always sharing systems feelings with other people, and they don't even realize they're sharing systems feelings. Also those that suggest they share their feelings and identify and express them, they do not direct them to look into the deeper or older problems which drive these feelings. And that's what family systems approach does. These feelings are present to keep the ancient family of origin within them, to keep that status quo and to maintain the equilibrium and homeostasis that was started many, many decades ago. This process is the only thing the couple knows, in quotes. The process of self-differentiation is to work to know something else and to see things in a different way so resolution can be achieved. I'm talking with a couple and they're both sharing all their systems feelings with each other. And then I will say, you know your family of origin is causing all of this. By the way, I'm not telling them to blame their family of origin. I'm just telling them how their family of origin is functioning within them. It's not the same as blaming them. In fact, their parents may have gotten older, become different people. They may be wonderful people now. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, your ancient emotional system is causing all these feelings now. And they begin to perk up and go, you mean it's not my wife causing all this? You mean it's not my husband causing all this? And I realize we take responsibility for our own behavior and we are not contributing to the relationship in a healthy way. But these systems feelings often have little to do with the marriage and more to do with the past. And so once they begin to understand, you mean there may be some other sources to this than just my wife or just my husband? Now all of a sudden they see their husband or wife much differently. Oh, you mean, because I was blaming her for all this the way I felt. I was blaming him for all this the way I felt, which would keep them in a horrible marriage for a very long time. Once we resolve the systems feelings, we can begin to feel and share true feelings of a positive nature, and maybe even a negative nature. There may be times it's appropriate to feel angry, that are true feelings and not based on the emotional field over here. Otherwise, we just keep feeling these systems feelings which overwhelm and shut out our true feelings. So what can we do? Begin to differentiate between the thought process and the feeling thought process is one of the things that we learn to do, and become aware of the emotional process or emotions. Emotions and family systems thought are unconscious. Feelings are conscious, and then there's the thought process. Identify and express your feelings to someone safe who can help you explore the archaeology of their root. And do the archaeology to find out where the root of that is. Because when I hear someone talking about their current issues, I always have a third eye looking back. Where did they learn this? I know what's happening right now, but where was it learned? I just feel so lonely. Where did they learn their loneliness? I just feel so abandoned by him. Well, where did you first learn abandonment? Because if you can sort those things out, you can clarify the current relationship and the current issues in a mature, self-differentiated way. Zoom out and see your feelings as they include your spouse and your family of origin. In other words, how do my feelings operate in this relationship? And can I include my family of origin emotional field in that understanding? So we're zooming back and zooming out rather than zooming in and just saying every problem is just between us or just within me, caused by them. So we need to learn to zoom out. Ask, how does my anger or my feeling of whatever kind function in the system to block or as a roadblock to achieve what I truly want? Put feelings in a relational perspective, as a pattern, and have a relational purpose in the system. In other words, systems feelings are a symptom. They're not the problem. They're a symptom. So see feelings as a symptom, for most of us, will help. My complaining, my anger, my guilt, my overholiness, my loneliness, my whatever, champions my learned mission and goal of maintaining my low self-worth, unworthiness, lack of intimacy and love, and keeps my low self-esteem in place. So how does my love for my affair partner defeat real love in my life and a real sense of self and wholeness? And how does it function in my marriage? Affairs function in the marriage and function out of the relational system of the marriage. And that's why affairs are, quote, not real love, because they come out of this emotional field that hasn't been resolved, and how love or affection or intimacy isn't resolved within the marriage. Now we add a third partner, and you're going to tell me that's a true and loving relationship that's all the way it should be? That'd be pretty amazing. Maybe 0.0001% that could be true. Humans are very complex, and I never say all or nothing. So anything can happen, but in general, it doesn't work that way. Look at how your feelings function in the relationship. This is often the step therapy and coaching does not address for many people. I remember my first question I got that was a systems question about a systems feeling. I was in seminary at the time. I was in graduate school and went to my supervisor, and I think I've shared this example before in other videos, Dr. Stoneberg, who was wonderful. And I went to him, and he was kind of a supervisor. I was depressed. My church wasn't going well. I was very bummed out. People had pretty much bullied me. I felt inadequate, weak, and I got depressed. So I come to him and say, I just really feel depressed. Can you help me with this depression? And he goes, well, what role does your depression play in your church? What? What do you mean, what role? Doesn't play any role. It's within me. It's what I'm feeling, and I don't know why. Is it clinical? Is it because of the church? Is it because I'm just down? I don't know, but I don't know how that question is just a really weird question. What role does it play? He said, well, let me help you out. I'm going to wave a magic wand and you no longer feel depressed. What would you be doing if you weren't depressed? I started feeling all tingly inside and all kind of weird inside, and I thought, well, I would begin to confront Mary and John. I would stand up to them. I would risk this because people vote with their feet, and especially in a pastor or church situation. And that's all real scary to me. So now I know why I'm depressed. So I don't do any of those things. And he goes, yes, your depression plays a role in your church. It keeps you from confronting or dealing with those problems. So he said, I would just keep your depression, and you might not hurry too quickly to get rid of that depression. And I'm just shaking my head going, I know he's absolutely right, but I'm not used to thinking that way. And seeing systems feelings as a symptom rather than this is just what's true within me, now help me with that truth. No, see how they function in the relationship. because systems and systems feelings function in the relationship. Well, I wish you could talk more. I've gotten to about a half hour now, and I feel like I go too long on these videos, and I apologize. I'm going to do shorter ones because I know people could use those maybe at lunchtime or something, and I'm going to work on doing that. I hope that you will contact me if you'd like to work with a self-expert. Go to my website, www.jerrywiserelationshipsystems.com. I hope you'll join my Facebook, my Twitter feed, and my YouTube channel of the same name. I hope you will stay in contact with me. We have lots of new things coming up and workshops that are going to be coming out. I'm having them transcribed right now so that you can begin to have the transcription as well as the workshop. I know I got 1 hour and a half workshop in which I talk with a crowd and we answer a lot of questions. And I really think it was a really helpful workshop. This was done some time ago, but it's still just as current now. I want to thank you very much for watching today, and have a great day.